Hi everyone, I am Nakia. Welcome to another presentation. The title of this presentation is 258, created by I am Nakia. Now before moving forward, I would like to say the information I will be presenting, including future presentations, is a work divinely inspired. And I, Nakia, am verbally stating my intention to protect this information and the fundamental integrity of it from all misuse, intentional or not, public or private, in its entirety, with all rights reserved, without restriction. In addition, all information created and shared by me, Nakia, regarding this divine work is and will continue to be protected by forces that operate in truth and balance. All misuse will be recompensed with equal measure. To keep the integrity of this information intact, what we know today as artificial intelligence or AI was not used to create or build on this information in any form. If and or when that time does come, it is of great importance to ensure the same integrity being used to carry out the duty of this information to the people is the same used to build a system of artificial intelligence or any other systems of knowledge. Keep in mind, programming isn't only what you see, it also includes what you don't see. And a lot of what we do not know, in large part, is because of what we do not see. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. All right, so the focus of this presentation will be the numbers 2, 5, and 8. And so here on this slide, what I'm showing you here um, are the 4 numeric string and the 5 numeric string for the non-consecutive from the non-consecutive perspective, right? And so the reason why I'm showing you these two strings is because these two strings can be tied to the 2, 5, and 8. At the end of the day, throughout the process, all of the numbers can be tied to the 2, 5, and 8. However, the 4 and the 5 specifically, the 5 specifically, because the 5 numeric string starts with the number 5, right? And so the 5 is the direct connection to the 2, the 5 and 8, or the 5. And the 4, 8 numeric line is the connection by proxy to the 5, right? So what I'm showing you here are those two numeric lines together. And underneath is what the result will be when you add these numbers together. So the resulting numeric line will be a string of all nines. And so here at the bottom, what I'm showing you here is, because remember in the videos I mentioned how when it comes to the non-consecutive string, the 1 and the 8, the 2 and the 7, and the 4 and the 5 share the same numeric line. And so here at the bottom, that's what I'm showing you here. So the 4 and the 5 equals 9, the 8 and the 1 equals 9, the 3 and the 6 equals 9, and the 7 and the 2 equals 9. And so here on this slide, I'm showing you the consecutive string for the 4 and the 5. So as you can see here, when these numbers are added together, it creates the numeric line that you see there. So this would be the 2 numeric line. So although it begins with a 9, if you count it from the 2, you see here 2, 4, 6, 8, 1, 3, 5, 7, and then cycling back around to 9 to make it complete. And so the reason why I'm showing you this is because I just wanted to show you how when you add these totals, it adds up to all nines, or not totals, but numbers. So when you add these numbers, it add up to all nines. And when you add these numbers, it add up to the numeric string that you see there, the crossroads. So here are the crossroads. So on this slide is the crossroads. The crosswords, I presented those in the presentation on my channel titled Let's Talk Numbers. And so here, what I'm showing you is how when you add these numbers to the 5, so if you've seen my presentation titled The Path, you know all about the 5, right? And so here with the crossroads, my focus is really the 2, the 5, and the 8, and the 4, the 5, and the 6. And so what I'm showing you here is when you add the 2 plus 5, it equals 7. So the 2 and the 5 here, right? And then the 8 and the 5 here. And so when you add 2 plus 5, it equals 7. And when you add 8 plus 5, it can be reduced to 4. And so when these two numbers come together, you get either numbers 7 and 4 or 74, right? And then I'm showing you here how 74 can also be seen as 911. And how that can be is I'm showing you right here. So you take the 7 and you take 2 from the 4. And then when you add that together, that equals 9. And then the 2 that's left over, that can be seen either as 2, so 92, or it can also be seen as 11 because 2 is also 11 when you see it from that perspective. And so here, right here, you see the 4, 5, and the 6. So when you add 4 and 5, so the 4 and the 5 is here, and the 6 and the 5 is here. So when you add 4 plus 5, it equals 9. And when you add 6 plus 5, when reduced, it will be 2. And so here, when these two numbers come together, you either have 9 and 2 or 92. And so here I'm showing you how 92 is also equal to 911. And so this right here is the vertical perspective. So here's the 1, 2, 3 vertical, and this slide here was the 1, 2, 3 horizontal. So on the vertical slide, it's the same logic, same process. The only difference is on this view, the 4, 5, 6 is vertical and the 2, 5, 8 is horizontal. Whereas on this one, the 2, 5, 8 is vertical and the 4, 5, 6 is horizontal. And so here, what I'm showing you here is how when you take so here is the 9 numeric grid, right? So, all right, so here is the 9 numeric grid. So here is the 1, 2, 3 horizontal and the 1, 2, 3 vertical, right? And so here on this, you can see here the 2, 5, 8 alignment or position. So here with the vertical, or apologies, the horizontal, this first numeric box, you see the 258 in the middle. So here is the 258 in the middle, 2, 5, and 8. And then with the 1, 2, 3 vertical, the 258 is at the center. So 2, 5, and 8. And so now when you kind of see it from that perspective, you can see how even though this right here is showing as 4, 5, 6, rather looking from the vertical or the horizontal perspective, this 4, 5, 6 can also be seen as 2, 5, 8, because now we know that there are two sides to it. So not only is the 258 here, I mean, as far as what you see, you can't see it, right? Because again, I'll say it many times over, what you see is what it is. So what you see is just as important as what you don't see, right? So so as far as the visuals go, the 4, 5, 6 is being seen. But based on what I'm showing you, now you know that in addition to the 4, 5, 6, even though I don't see it based on these visuals, this 4, 5, and 6 can also be referenced as 2, 5, and 8. So the crossroads is basically the 2, 5, and the 8, right? 2, 5, 8 here at the vertical and 2, 5, 8 here at the horizontal. And at the center again is the 5. And so here, this view right here is based on the 864 numeric grid, right? So this is based on all four sides, right? Because you would need all four sides in order to complete this square here. So as I'm showing you here, the 825 so 864 would be the point of reference, right, for the 8 grid. So the 864 on this numeric grid here is at the vertical, and then on this one is at the vertical, but this one right here is the mirror opposite to this one, right? So here the 864 is starting from the top down, and on this side is starting from the bottom going up, as well as all the other numbers. And then on these two here, the 864 is at the horizontal position. And then for this one, the 864 is still at the horizontal position, but it's in reverse. So here on this slide, or on this numeric grid, it's kind of situated from the left to the right. And then on this one, it's at the bottom from the right to the left, as well as all the other numbers. And so here, what I'm showing you is how when you draw out that line based on these 825 numbers, you can see here how these images or these numbers and these lines draw out a complete square. So we have 825, 825, 825, 825. So not only does 825 draw out this cross here, or 258. So here on this visual, it's 258, right? But on this one, it's 825 based on these number grids right here. So, and then here, this is what it looks like when both of those visuals come together. So you have, once again, like what can be four squares, or it can be seen as one large square, right? And it can be seen as so much more. It depends on your perspective. And then here I'm showing an image of the eight-pointed star. And so I'm just showing you here how, how the 258. So now that you have that understanding, right, about the 258, the positions, the 258 and or the 825 being the numbers that make up the larger square, and then the numbers that make up the center of the eight-pointed star. Now you can see here the importance of the 2, 5, and the 8, right? So here, what I'm showing you are the two sides. So here, right here is the consecutive side, right, of 9 strings. And then the area highlighted in green will be the non-consecutive. And then when these two sides are basically added together, this third box that you see here in gray is the result of when you add these two sets of numbers together. And then here, I'm just continuing um, those three boxes, right? So the box in the blue would be the consecutive string of numbers, right? So here, what I'm showing is when you look at those numeric strings. So right here, so these numeric strings right here are all of these numeric strings here. And so what I'm doing here is I'm basically showing you what these numbers, as you continue to as I continue to build on these charts, what I'm showing you here is basically what will be part of the build out. So starting with the one numeric string, right? So this first numeric string here, whether it's the horizontal or the vertical. So here, that will be this string here. And so we're talking about 9 numbers here. So in order to find the balance with 9 numbers, you're either separating it into 3 parts, or you're going to find its center, right? So the center for this numeric string would be the 5, right? As you see here. And so starting from that center point, if you look on both sides of that 5, you see a 6 and you see a 4. And when you add the 6 and the 4 together, it equals 1. So, but when you continue that count on the outside, so when you further go out based on those two sides, you'll see how all of these numbers add up to 1. So 6 and 4 when reduced will be 1. 7 and 3 when reduced will be 1. 8 and 2 when reduced will be 1. And 9 and 1 when reduced will be 1. And then for the 2 numeric line, The center would be right here at the 6. And so again, same logic, same process. When you look at both sides, the 5 and the 7 when reduced will be 3. The 4 and the 8 when reduced will be 3. The 3 and the 8 when reduced, hold on, no, the 3 and the 9 when reduced will be 3. And the 2 and the 1 when reduced will be 3. And then for the 3 numeric line, 7 will be the center, and so, or the fifth position. And so the 6 and the 8 when reduced will be 5. The 5 and the 9 when reduced will be 5. The 4 and the 9 when well, okay, I'm miss okay, so here the 4 and the 1. So I'm gonna start over. So the 6 and the 8 will be 5. The 5 and the 9 when reduced will be 5. The 4 and the 1 is 5, and the 3 and the 2 is 5. And so with the 4 numeric line, the 8 will be in the fifth position. And so looking out at both sides, 7 and 9 when reduced will be 7. 6 and 9, or apologies, 6 and 1 equals 7. 5 and 2 equals 7. And 4 and 3 equals 7. And then for the fifth one, 8 and 1 equals 9. 7 and 2 equal 9. 6 and 3 equals 9. And 5 and 4 equal 9. And then for the sixth numeric line, 9 and 2 when reduced will be 2. 8 and 3 when reduced will be 2. 7 and 4 when reduced will be 2. And 6 and 5 when reduced will be 2. So I just continued that logic for this last column as well. And so after completing that process, the numbers highlighted in blue, of course, is the result of that process. So here you have 174, 396, and 528. So if this was, if the view was different, so here the 123 is vertical, right? And so that's why the 174, the 396, and the 528 is showing up in those positions. If the 123 was horizontal, it would show up different. It would the 123 would go across, and then the 147 would go down right here on the left side. So that's for the consecutive, right? And then let's see. No, not that one. This one. So this view here would be for the non-consecutive. And so these are the non-consecutive strings here, whether vertical, horizontal. And then down here, I followed that same logic, that same process. So as you can see here, when these numbers, when you pull out based on that process, the resulting numbers is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. However, when you look at it horizontal, it's 1, 4, 7, 2, 5, 8, and 3, 6, 9. So even these three numbers based on those three groupings would be 3, 6, and 9, because 1 plus 4 is 5, and 5 plus 7 when reduced is 3. 2 plus 5 is 7, and 7 plus 8 when reduced is 6. And 3 plus 6 is 9, and 9 plus 9 when reduced will be 9. So there you have 3, 6, 9. And then this one would be the combination of them both. So here, here you have the 2, 4, 6 up top. So 2, 4, 6, 4, 7, 1. So if you notice the 2, 4, so here the same. So you have 2, 4, 6 horizontal and 2, 4, 6 vertical for each of these numeric lines. So here, when that process is followed for these square of numeric lines, you can see here the result would be 2, 5, and 8. 2, 5, and 8, and 2, 5, and 8. And so when you, so basically, so to sum it all up, when this side, when the consecutive side is added to the non-consecutive side, it results in this combination of numeric lines here. And this combination of numeric lines here results in the 258, 258, 258, or at least that's the viewpoint when you look at it horizontal, right? Going from left to right. When you look at it vertical, it's 222, 555, 888, but still 258 all the same. And so here, what I'm showing you here is basically what I basically just showed you in long form. But so this, I'm just showing you here how both sides are added together. So this is the one numerical lines added together for both sides, the consecutive and the non-consecutive. But remember, the one is going to be the same for both sides. Here is the two consecutive line and the two non-consecutive, right? And so when those two are added together, it equals 5, right? So these numbers highlighted in green is that same line here. That's the same numbers there, rather I should say. So when these two sides are added together, it results in 471 or a numeric string of 471, 471, 471. And when that process that I just discussed is followed, the result is 5. And so the same applies for each one of these spaces here. So as you can see here, uh, yeah, so the green again is when these two sides are added together. So we can see here when you add the consecutive side and the non-consecutive side, the results will be 258. And so here, what I'm showing you is how that would look like when you apply that based on this graph here. So here, when you look at it based on the numerics lines, the way that I'm showing you, starting with this one here, this would be the fifth uh, position, right? This column here. So here you start with the 5 and the 4 and 6 will be 1, 3 and 7, 1, 2 and 8, 1, 1 and 9, 1. So that's why the 1 is there. And so that will be followed all the way down. So 5 and 7, right, is 3, as well as all the other numbers that share that line. 6 and 8 will be 5, and so forth and so on. So that is that logic applies for each one of these squares. And so then so in the center of these squares, you have a number, right? And so that number, actually, apologies, not in the center, right here on this side. So this side and this side equals 9. So I'm taking you, so what I guess what I meant to say is I want to draw your attention to the center, right? So the center would be right here. So right the center of each one of these graphs here. So the center of this, so when you count from the center of this, for the horizontal, you see how 7 plus 2 equals 9, 5 plus 4 equals 9, 3 plus 6 equals 9, and 1 plus 8 equals 9. And then even when you look at it vertical, 7 and 2 is 9, 5 and 4 is 9, 3 and 6 is 9, and 1 and 8 is 9. And so that's why I have 9 here. And then that same logic applies for this green area here. So 4 and 6 is 1, 3 and 7 is 1, 2 and 8 is 1, and 1 and 9 is 1. And the same for the vertical. And then the same logic applies for this last one here. So again, this plus this equals this. And so if you see here, you notice that 258 there. So 258 is on the crossroads. So that's another. So now when you think of the crossroads, when you think of it, now your understanding or your viewship or the way that you view it is can even has been added to, right? So, and then when you look at these three graphs, what you end up seeing here is 911, right? And so remember on the crossroads where I was telling you how when you add those numbers together, you can see 74 is 911 and you can see 92 is 911. Well, seeing this for what it is here just kind of drives that home, right? It just clarifies that perspective even more. And so here, what I'm showing you, so this right here is based on the 864 numeric grid, right? Because if I was to draw, so here what I'm doing is I'm drawing out 911 using these numeric grids here. And so if I was to draw out 911 on the 9 numeric grid, it would just show like a diagonal line going from the 1 to the 9 consistently. It would just show that, right? However, when I draw it out based on the 8 numeric grids, the image that you see here is what can be drawn out. And so how I did this is starting, so here again, you have the 864 right here on the 864 vertical on the left, 864 vertical on the right is mirror opposite, and then 864 horizontal here at the top, and 864 horizontal at the bottom, it's mirror opposite. And so how I did this here, so starting with the 1 and the 8, what I did since 1 and when you connect the 1 and the 8, it equals 9. So I started at the 1, drew a line up to the 8, and then in order to complete that 911, I went across to the 2. And so then with the 2 and the 7, so 7 will be here. So I just drew a line. So I went from actually rewind. So I also did that in reverse as well. So not only did I draw a line from the 1 to the 8 and across to the 2, I drew a line from the 8 to the 1, or I kind of picked up at that 1, and I also drew a line from which would be from the 8 to the 1 back up to the 2, right? So then for the 2, the 7 is here. So connected to, so in order to connect the 2 and the 7, I just drew this line here at the center. So so that in and of itself would be 911, because if you start at the 2 and then 2 plus 7 is 9, and then you go back up to the 2, that would be 911, right? And so, so with the 4, I started with the 4 here and went up to the 5. So 4 plus 5 is 9, and then went across to the 2 to make it 911, and then in reverse from the 5 to the 4, and then up to the 2 to make it 911. And then the 6 and the 3, so I started at the 3 and went across to the 6 and went up to make that 911, and then in reverse from the 6 to the 3 and up to the 2 to make that 911. So as you can see, when this is drawn out based on those number connections, you can see the image that you see here is what can be drawn out. And so this is just one side of it though. So this is based on the 825 here. So see the 825 here, the 531, and 864, and the 471. So that would be based on this one numeric grid here. So if I was to draw this line out for all 4 of these, it would draw out a complete 8-pointed star for all 4 sides. And so here, what I'm showing you is how when drawing out this image here, what I'm showing you here is how it looks very similar to what is called or known as, I'm drawing a blank here. Uh, hold on for a second. Transmission towers. Um, so these right here, so at least that's one name or one way of being able to refer to what you see here in this image to the right is transmission towers. So if you notice, it may not necessarily be a direct um, um, mirror or copy of this, but you can see how or see where, or you can see the possibility of how the 8-pointed star was the inspiration, the blueprint for these transmission towers, or the design for the transmission towers. So when you look at it based on this perspective, based on transmission towers, at least for me, I begin to think about energy and supply and what's really going on here when it comes to the 8-pointed star. And so here, what I'm showing you is the 5-pointed star and the 8-pointed star. So what I'm showing you here is how, you know, I'm just showing you the 5 and the 8. Um, what I'm also showing here, my goal here is to show when you stay true to form with drawing out the five-pointed star, it doesn't look like the five-pointed stars that we normally see, right? Like here over on the right are five-pointed stars that we normally see. And so based on the eight-pointed star, if the goal was to stay true to form, this is how it would look, right? And when I see this, I know a character that I think about when I see this shape here. And so if you was to say, so another way of being able to see it is the image that you see here, right? So this would be if the eight-pointed star was turned on its point, this one right here. And so if you was to draw it out, it would look kind of like this. So I can see where the similarities will be when you compare this line drawing of a five-pointed star to these here. However, you can definitely still see the differences. So here you see how this point here is more further up and this is further down, whereas here is higher up, right? And this is further down. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. And then here on this slide, I'm just showing you. So this is, we all know what this image is. These are dominoes, right? We've all may have played dominoes in our families, right? We've all heard the sounds and the smacking of the dominoes on the tables, good times, right? Um, and so what I want to show you here is how the 516273849 numeric line can be associated with the dominoes, because when you are playing dominoes, everybody know when you count by five. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, right? So what I'm showing you here is how when you reduce that five count for those numbers, when you reduce it, the result is the 516273849 numeric string. And so basically, when you think about it in a way of energy, generating energy, I can kind of see a connection there, right? When we're playing it, because we're more than physical, right? We are energetic bodies as well, right? And so when you think of it from that perspective, when you're playing dominoes, when the dominoes is smashing on the table and there's noise and people getting loud and people want to get rambunctious and they want to fight, or they just getting excited because they just scored, or large what some they just made some money, or as they would refer to it, or how it's referred to, there's a lot of energy. Energy is being exerted. So when you think of it in that way, that would be more from a metaphysical standpoint. However, it still relate all the same, right? So there's a conversation for that as well. So on this slide, I just kind of wanted to just show you that. And so basically, um, the point of this presentation was, again, the focus was the 2, 5, and the 8. And so, as I mentioned in some of my videos, maybe in one of the videos that I have available and posted, you'll see some word charts. And so on those word charts, I build word charts using alphanumeric lines. And the numeric lines that I talk about and showed as part of this presentation, as well as others, is also a part of that process. And so part of the reason why I'm showing you 258, because now that we can kind of understand the importance of the 2, the 5, and the 8, and how that is the center point, right, for all of this, right? When I'm presenting word charts, when you kind of see that 5 numeric string, or you see that 258, now that gives you that can give you more pause, more reason, to lean in and question, why why was this word spelt this way, right? Or why was this word applied this or here, and so forth and so on. So I don't want to make this presentation too long. And so I'm actually going to end it here. The conversation will definitely continue. Please share your thoughts in the comment section. And so I want to thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I will meet with you at the next video. Bye.